Well, hello there. Thank you so much for joining the conversation today on Ready, Set, Respond. I'm your host, Carla Alicea, Director of Client Performance for Apartment Ratings and SatisFacts, and I am so grateful to be here with you today and every month as we discuss topics that impact your community. Now, these conversations are designed to have a little something for everyone, so I hope you and your teammates will join in, participate in our audience polls, and take away some insights and resources to improve your operations. At the end of the program, don't forget to head over to our SatisFacts page on Facebook or Instagram, where you can add a comment and share your biggest takeaway from today's conversation for a chance to win a $50 gift card. Now, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I thought today we'd talk with a multifamily sales professional about how he uses gratitude, appreciation, and service to build lasting relationships with his customers and his team members. So coming up on That's My Job guests, the VP of Sales at Contract Carpet Corporation, an incredibly genuine and compassionate human being, and a very well-respected multifamily icon, Mark Lacey, will join the conversation. But first, it's time for the Ready, Set, Respond polls. We want to hear from you. So to participate, pull out your phones and go ahead and scan that QR code on the screen, or you could head over to slido.com, that's SLIDO.com, and enter the code 4122119. Now, if you're new to the conversation, you've never been on an episode of Ready, Set, Respond, our polls are opinion polls. So that means there are no right or wrong answers. There are just honest ones. So when you see the poll on the screen, be ready to respond with your honest feedback. All right? Are you ready? Okay. Our first Ready, Set, Respond poll question is, how important do you believe expressing gratitude and appreciation to residents is for overall resident satisfaction and retention rates? It could be very important, somewhat important, maybe it's about neutral, maybe you don't think it has any impact on resident satisfaction, or no impact at all on retention rates. So how do we feel out there? Go ahead and get logged in. You could use that QR code and share your opinions with us. We want to know, how are you feeling as we go into this conversation about gratitude? All right, so far we've got about 18 people weighing in on the conversation, and a huge majority, 90%. We got a 22 people weighing in, 91%. Very important, yes, very important to express to your residents that you are grateful for their residency and that you value them. We're all feeling that way. Love to see that. And 9% saying it's important. So no one so far saying that it's neutral or not important. All right, let's keep that in mind. Let's go to the next poll question. Our next poll question is, do you feel that your community or your company has a culture of expressing their gratitude and appreciation to its residents? So if you feel that you are always showing or continually showing a strong level of appreciation towards your residents, you feel very gracious towards them, you held them in high regards. The opposite, we're going to talk a little bit about this. The opposite of those feelings could be maybe entitlement or resentment. Do we express that to our residents? Do we feel entitled? Or do maybe sometimes we resent our residents? Is that the culture that you're feeling? If that's so, you're going to want to disagree, or maybe you're going to come in a little neutral. I love seeing this. I love seeing that the results so far, we've got 20 people weighing in and 60% strongly agree, with only 25% agreeing, 10% neutral. We got a small percentage out there, 5% saying that they disagree. So let's talk about some ways that we might be able to turn that culture around. All right, we talked about the residents, but here at SatisFacts, We truly believe that that resident satisfaction starts with employee satisfaction. So our next poll question is, how important is it to you that your company or manager expresses gratitude and appreciation for your contributions? So is that important to you? Do you want to be appreciated at work? Do you want to feel like the people that you work for are grateful for your time and your effort and your energy? Or is that not really important to you? Now, if you're anything like me, it's kind of important, right? You want to know that what you do matters and that the people that you're working with feel positively towards that impact. And I think you guys feel very similarly. 16 of you weighing in, 81% saying that it's very important to express that gratitude and that appreciation. 12% saying important, 6% saying not very important. I wonder if maybe you're more motivated by different carrots, right, than gratitude. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's go to the next question. Do you feel that your work environment has a culture of gratitude and appreciation for your contributions of its team members? So we know that everyone wants to feel, or the majority of our respondents said they want to feel appreciated at work. Are you feeling that? Is that the culture? Is that the work environment that we're in? We've got 17% or 17 respondents, 19 respondents. Let's see if we get up to 20. All right, we've got 47% agreeing, 45% agreeing, okay. 30% strongly agreeing, 10% are neutral. They're not feeling overwhelmingly appreciated, but they're not feeling the opposite. We've got about 15% that disagree, almost 20% that disagree. So I think this is actually a great time to bring Mark out. Mark, welcome to the conversation.
Oh my gosh, Carla, thank you so much. It is so wonderful to be with you. I am grateful to you and everybody that's out there.
Oh my gosh, Mark, I just love your energy. You know, what do you think of these poll questions and these results that we've seen?
Incredible. Yeah, it's like you guys are amazing. Like, that you're focusing on gratitude. You see the importance of it, but we know we have some work to do in our work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How can we do
Absolutely.
that?
Yes. Mark, you've been a sales leader in multifamily for some time now, and you've earned an amazing reputation, not just from your team members, but from your clients and, well, pretty much anyone who's ever met you. And I've
Oh,
actually had the privilege of working on your sales team. I got to work with you for 5 years,
yes.
some of the best years. I've learned all of my foundations of relationship building from you and reflect on that so many times. And you have that natural ability to build these connections and these meaningful relationships. And today, even today, you're such a genuine person, and you're just as genuine today as you were 20 years ago when we first met. So can you share your secrets? How do you create that magnetic aura that genuinely endears people to you?
Well, first Botox, and then second, no, just kidding. Carl, you know what? I had that photo in there today that my great teammate Maury Fenty took of me with a cracker with some caviar in it. Instead of the shirt off my back, I'm gonna give you the caviar off my cracker. I tell you what. So yeah, so it's been a wonderful ride. It all came from desperation when I got into multifamily 30 years ago.
Oh, how's that?
Well, you know what? I was down and out in Laguna Beach, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So my partner and my former wife went into business at a cafe, and it wasn't doing very well. I was a commission only recruiter at that time, and I worked on my own. So I was like, uh-oh, there's no money coming in. I have got to get a job. And guess what? I ended up working for a property management company as a human resource manager.
Wow. What was that like?
Well, you know what? It was like all I was thinking of was like the last time I'd rented an apartment, and I was thinking of sitting, and I was sitting in the manager's unit, filling out the lease. I didn't know it was like such a big, universe of multifamily professionals out there. you
Yeah.
know 800,000 or so people working in this industry, and it's a people business. How did I get so lucky to connect to it?
And when I met you, you were a sales superstar. I mean, you were part of the sales team. You were quickly promoted to our sales leader. You had all the relationships and connections with all the movers and shakers, and it was based on a genuine respect. And I remember you would always say, we always do what's right for the customer. We're gonna, we're gonna build those relationships if we're doing what's right for our customers.
Yes,
And you always focused on the relationship. What can we give them? How can we help them? And you know, let me back up just a little bit. You used to start out our sales meetings. I think they were weekly sales meetings. We'd come together as a team
yes.
and we would read a book.
Monday when we weren't very awake.
Yes. And we come together and you'd always have us read a book and we'd each read a chapter or a section. And I think my favorite book was The Little Red Book of Sales. Guys,
Oh yes,
audience, if you've never read that book and you're leasing or in your sales, you definitely have to pick that one up. It's a wonderful book, but we read several books together. So today, actually, I thought that I'd share a book with you that I recently read. And the entire time I was reading it, especially when I was reading the relationship cultivation chapters, I was thinking about you. So the book's influence, the psychology around persuasion, and the author, Robert, talks about these 7 key principles to persuasion, and he breaks it down into these 3 categories: relationship cultivation, uncertainty reduction, and then motivating action. And so when I was thinking about the 3 principles under relationship cultivation, which is reciprocity and liking and unity, I mean, I just kept thinking about all of the wonderful sales lessons that I learned from those readings and from our time together as a team. So I wanted to ask you, can you share some key principles like reciprocity, liking, and unity that's actually influenced your career growth and success?
absolutely. Thank you, Carla. You know what? I always think of that because really that when we get down to it, we're doing the right thing is gives us the byproduct of happiness. I had a mentor that taught me that many years ago, and I was like, yes, that is the truth. And let me give you an example, like from you, because you inspired me so many times, and I would have those Monday meetings because I needed you and the rest of our team. Maybe Gabe Jones is out there too, that to get me going. So it was a reciprocity in that very thing. And I give you a great example of one. I think it was about. I think you moved on from move.com in about '08. Is that right?
Yeah, about so.
Yeah, yeah. So, but prior to that, I remember we went to visit the biggest property in Los Angeles, Park La Brea, and spoke to the VP there, Chris Scroggin, and
Mhm.
you were talking about social media and how they could leverage it. And it was like, oh my gosh, my eyes were popping out of my head. I was like, and his word too. I was watching him and he was just so engaged in that. And you were giving him this, it was like you weren't selling him move.com at that moment. You were showing him how he could capture this new and exciting social media. It was amazing.
Well, we always put our clients, at the forefront of our thought. We try to share our knowledge, right? That's
Yes.
something that I think is really important, that when we learn something that's intriguing or relevant, that we share it with others and we get their feedback and their perspectives. And that's kind of how we grow, which is exactly what you did when we got together to talk about gratitude. You shared this resource. I guess a friend of yours sent you a link to this podcast. It's actually a podcast I love. It's called Hidden Brain. So
Yeah.
audience, if you haven't checked out the Hidden Brain podcast, it's wonderful. The host Shankar Adamtham has a great presentation of so many different topics, and he has a real interesting way of breaking them down. And he did a recent podcast on the enemies of gratitude. And I've had the pleasure of listening to this episode multiple times. And each time I listen to it, I actually learn a little something new. And the part that really resonated with me was when they discussed the enemies of gratitude and how feelings of resentment and entitlement, which they describe as the polar opposites of feeling gracious, right? If you're
Yes.
not feeling gracious, you may be leaning towards that entitlement, feeling privileged, or maybe towards resentment, like you're missing, or missing out on something others have, right? And that those feelings of entitlement and resentment tend to flourish in toxic environments. So that was something that really resonated with me. Can you share some of the specific insights or moments from the episode that resonated with you?
Oh, you're exactly right, Carla. There's so much in this. I recommend it to everybody. It's quite it's so jam packed and full of great stuff, and it leads off with, why do we feel like, why do successful people feel like, don't feel negative rather than positive about where they are? And why is that? Like, if we're making $30,000 a year, we're way ahead of, a good portion of the world right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't feel that, right? And so we're comparing ourselves to others, and we're just, we're kind of wrapped up in our head, even to the point where when we are feeling gratitude, sometimes we don't even share it with others because we're worrying about how to do it the right way. And
Mm-hmm.
what studies show is that just by expressing it is what people want. They don't care how it's done. It doesn't have to be something eloquent, but the gratitude itself, just like you gave me today, it just made me feel good. And I bet it made the audience feel good too, observing it. Like, if you, like, for instance, on the Academy Awards, when people are giving their acceptance speeches, they don't say thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful that I'm so good looking, and I got these, or that I was born in a rich family that could send me to acting school. Or they don't say that. They're thanking other people, and it's making us feel good, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, and just today I felt it initially, right? Because you gave me such a warm introduction, and I was
Oh,
thinking, how can I give that back to Carla the
and you
same,
did.
at that same level? And I was just thinking, just get that thought out of my head, because that's a detriment. That's an enemy of the gratitude.
Absolutely. So in your career in sales, have you encountered situations where feelings of resentment or entitlement have come into play, either personally or with your clients or team?
Well, yes. I mean, you'll remember this, and Gabe will too. That there was I had in those move days, I had a conflict with a peer, and so I got sentenced to a coach, which was like, oh, this is like a benefit. I get to go to this PhD psychologist and have him as my coach, and he even would come to our meetings sometimes. So I was like, oh, but it was a gift
It really
out of
was.
that conflict and that resentment I had.
And it kind of demonstrates also the company's commitment to your development. You know,
Yes, that's
they
right.
recognized that there was a conflict, and instead of coming down with a heavy hand,
Right.
they nurtured and mentored you. And I think that's wonderful. Anytime that we can turn a conflict or a negative situation in the workplace around. I had the privilege of actually working with an amazing HR representative for a short time, but it had a lot of impact on me, who really taught me the value of a PIP. I didn't even know what a
Yeah.
PIP was before, but it's a performance improvement plan. Um,
Ah. Yes.
and in a subsequent position, I had an opportunity to do a PIP with the direct report, and she was so grateful. It was a positive experience, not a negative. She said she learned so much, and that's because I took the time and I invested in her, like you've shown to me and to numerous other team members. Because I think it's easy, when we're in a work environment and there's stress and, demands, right?
Yes.
That we can slip into that negative way of thinking and not really experience or feel that gratitude or express our gratitude and appreciation. When that happens, Mark,
Correct.
what strategies or practices have you personally adopted, either from the podcast or elsewhere, to cultivate gratitude in your daily life?
Yeah, exactly. That is definitely important. And starting off the morning with that moment of centering, of reflection, of gratitude. We can all think of some things that we're grateful for. Like my little baby, um, Ginger Spice, my Chihuahua.
Aw.
She'll be curled up under the covers. I just look down at her like, oh, it's so cute. Like, and that reminds me oh, thank you so much for all these blessings that are coming my way. And then you know what? Something will happen in that first hour or so of work, and I'll feel like, And so I need to go back and use this practice. So maybe everybody can join us in practicing this right now. It's called PAUSE. There's an acronym there. You see it. Pause and take a breath. Allow your mind to rest. Unwrap the tightness in your chest. Sense the quiet and the peace. Embrace the pause and its release. And then I can go back to that place of gratitude and that centering and get back to something good, getting something good done, right? This is
Absolutely.
from
I
my
love
friend
that.
Shar, by the way.
Yes, we had Valerie Sargent on an episode earlier. We were talking about mental health first aid and a couple of other topics, and she talked about um, also the importance of taking a step back and taking a deep breath, and how the breath can help with that release of emotions. So I love this pause method.
Yeah.
Definitely
And it's
want
just a
to.
quick one instead of a longer meditation. But hey, meditation's gone mainstream for us, right? So this
Oh,
is a little teeny practice of it.
absolutely. So mainstream that another organization that I had the privilege of working with every morning had 15-minute meditation sessions. It was a remote company. We were all
Okay.
remote, but we would log into Zoom and we'd meditate together. Um,
Yes.
it was transformative. It really helped clear the mind and set those positive affirmations for the day. Um, it was a real great experience. All right, well, guys, Mark and we were talking about gratitude, and we brainstormed some ideas on how you can show gratitude and appreciation to your renters. So take a look at these 12 suggestions that are on the screen. We believe that these can make a real impact, and take a moment to look them over. And consider how you can incorporate maybe one or two of them into your weekly or monthly operations, or maybe you already do. um, just a little bit sometimes goes a long way. Mark, if you had to pick one, one of these employee appreciation, gratitude practices, what one do you think would be the most effective and meaningful in expressing gratitude to renters?
Oh, you know what? I'll give you just one example of one of these, and I think, and I love the feedback and improvement one, because I think that apartment ratings and SatisFacts give us so much robust solution on that one. I love it. So maybe you can talk about that one a little bit. And I was looking at the resident appreciation events just because it's like so salient to me right now.
Hmm.
Adrienne Newland, my teammate, she was one of our large property customers. I think it's about 800 units, and they invited us to their trunk or treat event. And I don't have any kids, so I'd never been to trunk or treat, but I did have a skeleton costume to wear, and Adrian is super good at fixing at decorating the back of her SUV and making it cool. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I got so much to do. How can I be doing this during the day? And I got there and I looked around. I saw those families coming by and the joy of those kids, and the way the residents were feeling, and the manager being out there as Maleficent in this great costume. It was too hot to be in it, but she was doing it. And I was like so impressed. And I looked around, I said, Adrian, I don't think there's any other vendors here. And she said, no, there's not. And I
Oh,
was
wow.
and I was just like blown away. I was just filled with gratitude looking at these families and the bond that's being created at that community. Incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, resident events are actually quite important, I think. I just recently had an encounter with one of our clients who had a small, slip backwards in one of their, I think it was their pre-renewal survey. So we were digging into the numbers, and what we realized is that they had 67% of their residents that actually participated in resident events. We
Yes.
learned that from the surveys, but they had a backward slide in their overall rating of those events.
Okay.
So I asked her, I said, did you do as many resident surveys this year as you did last year? And she said, no, we pulled back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we could see that in the numbers. So, for all those out there thinking, oh, do these events even matter? Yes, your residents do
Oh, yes.
really do very much value them. Absolutely. Okay, so Mark and I, we also agree that when it comes to resident satisfaction, it kind of all starts out with that employee satisfaction. So it's equally, if not more so important, to extend these practices within your teams and organizations. So after all, a harmonious work environment is built on appreciation and on recognition, as we learned from our polls, right? We all appreciate some recognition. So Mark and I put our heads together again, and we came up with some more ideas for fostering a positive and grateful work environment. Mark, again, I want to ask you, could you share a personal anecdote about a time when you witnessed or experienced the effects of a more grateful work environment, and what stood out to you in that situation?
Yes. First, I was just thinking about this, and how you made that point just a little bit ago about how the employee experience correlates to the resident experience so much. And that
Mm,
was one of the first lessons I learned in terms of data as a human resources manager in this business. I saw that correlation happening. Where, in some cases, I and and I thought it was funny at the time, but I would say, because this was true, you know, to when a resident manager would move into their apartment, I said, don't unpack because you might get transferred soon. And so, but then I also, then a little bit later on, I realized, oh my gosh, this is showing up in resident retention also, and employee satisfaction and who stays, because I wanted to
yes.
keep those great employees. And so what I've noticed, and when we have that mix of our team, is that when we have like that positive feeling amongst us, it's so
Hmm.
great. But when it can easily shift, like somebody's feeling about their job can switch them to a negative, or somebody changes in the team, and then you watch it flip to a more negative. And I'm thinking, like, this is the same team, but what happened?
Yep.
And it just, and it is that fine tuning, and finding those places where who is not feeling appreciated, who needs some additional support, who needs a pet, you know?
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to share an example from a client we have at SatisFacts, that actually illustrates how companies can leverage their resident surveys to nurture a sense of community and show appreciation for team members. So this client affectionately named this initiative, they called it the Gratitude Project. And each year at the end of their annual survey, they'd include a special section where residents could actually invite um, and were invited to share a brief story about team members who had gone above and beyond to create a sense of community at that apartment community. So residents were encouraged to express their gratitude and appreciation by mentioning these team members by name. Then what the company would do is collect all that feedback and consolidate it um, into they'd make it into videos highlighting the
Mhm.
positive feedback.
Yes.
They created awards around it and gave out annual gratitude awards at their events. So it really became a cornerstone of that culture that they had at that company, where employees, were looking for those gratitude awards. So going above and beyond for their residents at every possibility. So some really good stuff, Mark. I just want to I want to thank you for coming on and sharing some of your experiences with us. But I did also invite you here to play our fact or fiction game.
Oh,
So
yay.
this is a quick game, and where I'm going to read you some statements, some short statements, and you have to tell me whether that's fact or whether I made this up. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready? Audience, are you ready too? You could play along if you want to. Go ahead and get to slido.com. We're going to start out with our first short story. So our first fact or fiction story comes from representatives at the Orlando airport who organized a drive to aid unpaid federal workers during the last government shutdown. So they collected food and other essential donations to support the TSA and Customs and Federal Aviation Administration workers while their paychecks were delayed. So Mark, did I make this story up or is this fact?
Hey, Carla, I get it. I've got to go with fact. It sounds good. And we just narrowly avoided a government shutdown recently. So I'm going to go with that. I think it's fact.
Think it's fact. All right, let's see what our audience thinks. 94% saying it's fact. You guys are absolutely right. In fact, there were a lot of
Woohoo!
amazing stories across the country about how citizens tried to help and support our federal workers during that time. So some really good stuff came out of that. All right, our next story, a Yonkers police officer split a lottery ticket with a waitress. When the ticket won $6 million, the officer kept his word and split the money with the waitress, and in the same time inspired a motion picture film. Is this fact or is this fiction? Mark, are you there?
Oh, yes. Oh, you wanted me to answer.
Oh, yeah. Yep, we're
I
playing.
was waiting for everybody to weigh in. Okay.
We'll show
So,
their answers after we
you
hear
know
from
what?
you.
I was thinking, is this the movie Waitress? But I don't think it is. I don't think it is. But I think it's fact. I think it's fact. Let me say that.
Okay, you are right. It is fact. And so we're not remembering the name of the movie, but it is It Could Happen to You. It was
Oh,
from 1994 and it starred Nicolas Cage, Bridget
I'm writing
Fonda,
it down.
and Rosie Perez. It was a
Okay.
great 90s rom-com and it was absolutely based off of a true story. So if you
Wow.
haven't seen the rom-com, if you love 90s films, take a look at this one. It's a great one. Real good rom-com to
I'm writing
watch.
that down, Carla.
Absolutely. It could happen to you. All right, our last one. There exists a website. This website is called randomactsofkindness.org, and it provides free resources to promote kindness, making it the norm in schools, homes, and workplaces. Mark, is this a real thing or did I just make this up? Is this just,
Oh, come on. I know you can make stuff up pretty good, but I think this is that's a compliment, by the way.
Okay.
But let's see.
I've
This
got a
one
good imagination.
you do. It is fact.
Yes, it is absolutely fact, and it's actually a resource I wanted to share with our audience because I found this website as I was researching stories for our game, and I had to put it in because I just wanted to share it with everyone in attendance. I did a deep dive on this website, and I especially loved the section on kindness at work. They have a what is it? It's a kindness pledge and a workplace challenge and a workplace assessment that you can do. But there's all sorts of materials. And if you're raising young children, I don't know if any of your audiences at home are raising young children. I think we always get a little concerned about how negative the media could become or social media is. There's some resources for at home that you can use, coloring books and posters and stuff to really keep kindness at the forefront of your household. So some really great resources in there. Mark, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for
Oh,
you being on today's show. I'm
oh,
so
and
grateful.
yes, let me return the gratitude to you and everybody out there. Really, it's just I feel good. I mean, like, hey, it's a great day.
Well, thank you so much.
Everything's going to be a get to today. Nothing. There's going to be no have tos. It's amazing.
I love that. Everything's going to be I get to instead of have to. Oh, that's wonderful. See, even at the end, sharing those little nuggets that'll keep us focused on gratitude and positivity. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. And right
So
now,
such a pleasure.
audience, it's time to continue the conversation online. So go ahead and head over to Instagram or Facebook and tell us your biggest takeaway from today's conversation. All entries are due by 5 p.m. Pacific. For that chance to win a $50 gift card, and our judges are standing by. And then also don't forget to register for our next conversation. You can go to satisfacts.com/webinars as we look ahead to 2024 with a focus on elevating your community's brand and awareness in your market. We're thrilled to introduce our next guest speaker. Joining us will be Stacey Feeney. She's the founder and creative director at Zip Code Creative. And Stacey's going to be sharing her expertise and insights to help you reach your branding goals. So for all those blossoming marketing professionals, this is going to be an inspiring and informative discussion that you're not going to want to miss. So all good things must come to an end, and we've reached the end of our program. So do me a favor and help our program improve by completing that closing survey before you log off. Your feedback is important to us. Thank you for joining the conversation today. I'm Carla Alicea, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.